The kiss started soft, tentative, almost fragile, like Jiwon was afraid she might shatter if he pressed too hard. His large, scarred hands cradled Adetola's face with a gentleness that contradicted everything she'd seen him do in that interrogation room hours earlier. Thumbs brushing across her cheekbones as dawn light spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Hanamdong apartment. She could taste the chamomile tea on his lips, feel the tremor in his fingers that betrayed how much this moment cost him. This man who'd spent 20 years building walls now tearing them down with his bare hands. But gentleness only lasted so long. When Adetola's fingers tangled in his silver-streaked hair and pulled him closer, something snapped. Jiwon's grip tightened, one hand sliding to the back of her neck, the other spanning her waist as he lifted her onto the kitchen counter in one smooth motion that reminded her exactly how strong he was. The kiss turned hungry, desperate, his body pressing between her thighs as she wrapped her legs around his waist on pure instinct. This wasn't the cold businessman who'd married her for an inheritance. This was the dangerous man who destroyed Chitty with his bare hands, who'd broken a trafficker's mind with nothing but words and pressure, who was now kissing her like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning for 47 years. Adetola, he breathed against her mouth, forehead dropping to hers as they both struggled for air. His hands were still shaking. If we do this, if I let myself have you, I won't be able to let you go. Do you understand? I won't be civilized about it. I won't be the man who gives you space or respects boundaries or lets you walk away when things get difficult. She looked into those cold, dark eyes that weren't cold anymore, saw the raw need and barely controlled desperation, and made her choice. Then don't let me go. The sound he made, half groan, half growl, sent heat flooding through her body. His mouth found her throat, teeth grazing her pulse point as his hand slid under her sweater, palms rough against the smooth skin of her back. She arched into him, head falling back, and for a moment the world narrowed to just sensation, his lips on her neck, his body solid and warm against hers, the wedding rings on both their hands catching morning light as they reached for each other like drowning people reaching for shore. Then his phone rang. Jiwon went absolutely still, mouth frozen against her collarbone, every muscle in his body tensing. The ringtone was different from his usual, sharp, insistent, the kind of sound that demanded immediate attention. "Don't answer it," Adetola whispered, fingers tightening in his hair. But he was already pulling back, that cold professional mask sliding back into place with terrifying efficiency. He grabbed his phone from the counter, looked at the screen, and his expression went from desire to ice in half a second. "I have to take this." He stepped away from her, putting 3 feet of distance between them like he needed the space to think clearly. "Stay here." He answered in Korean, voice clipped and controlled, but Adetola saw his free hand curl into a fist so tight his knuckles went white. The conversation lasted maybe 30 seconds. When he hung up, the man standing in front of her wasn't the one who'd been kissing her breathless moments ago. This was the fixer, the killer, the professional who operated in Seoul's darkest corners. "Get dressed," he said quietly. "We're leaving." "What's wrong?" "Someone just tried to kill my associate, the one who helped me track down Chitty." Jiwon was already moving, grabbing his shoulder holster from where he'd left it on the console table, checking his gun with mechanical precision. "They left a message. They know about you." Adetola's blood went cold. What kind of message? He looked at her then, and the fear she saw in his eyes, actual fear from a man who didn't fear anything, made her stomach drop. "Your name, your photo, and a price. If you're watching this and your heart just stopped, if you need to know what happens when the most dangerous man in Seoul realizes his enemies know his weakness, then don't you dare click away. Hit that subscribe button right now because what comes next is going to shatter everything they just built. The protection, the confession, the fragile new trust, all of it is about to be tested in the most brutal way possible." 20 minutes later they were in Jiwon's car, speeding through Seoul's early morning streets toward a location he wouldn't specify. He'd made her change into dark clothes, jeans, black sweater, practical boots, and pulled her hair into a tight bun himself with surprising gentleness despite the urgency. Now she sat in the passenger seat watching him drive with one hand while he made phone calls with the other, his Korean rapid fire and deadly calm. "Who put the price on me?" she asked when he finally hung up. "I don't know yet, but they're professional. The hit went out on the dark web 4 hours ago. 50 million won for information leading to your capture, 100 million for delivery." His jaw clenched. "Someone wants you alive." "Why?" "To get to me." He took a corner too fast, the car's tires squealing. "I've made enemies, Adetola, powerful ones. People I've blackmailed, destroyed, put in prison or worse. I always knew someone might come for revenge eventually. I just didn't think," he stopped, throat working. "I didn't think I'd give them a target that actually mattered." The weight of that confession hung in the air between them. She mattered. She was the weakness he'd never had before, the vulnerability he couldn't eliminate or control. "Where are we going?" "Safe house. 40 minutes outside Seoul. It's off-grid, secure, stocked for emergencies. We'll stay there until I figure out who's behind this and eliminate the threat." "Eliminate how?" He glanced at her, eyes dark. "However necessary." They drove in tense silence for another 10 minutes before Jiwon's phone rang again. He answered, listened, and his expression went from controlled to murderous in the space of a heartbeat. "How many?" He listened. "Are you sure?" More listening. "No, absolutely not. Pull everyone back. If they want war, I'll give them war, but not with civilians in the crossfire." He hung up and immediately made another call. "It's me. I need the team assembled in 2 hours, full tactical gear. Yes, all of them. I don't care what they're doing. Tell them it's priority alpha, and if they're not there, they're fired or dead, whichever comes first." "Jiwon, what's happening?" "The people who put the bounty on you just made a mistake." His voice was eerily calm. "They went after my mother's grave, desecrated it, left another message." "What did it say?" "That they know everything. My work, my marriage, my inheritance, and that if I want to keep you alive, I need to turn over every piece of blackmail material I have on certain powerful people in Seoul." His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "They think they can threaten me into submission." "Can they?" He looked at her then, and the absolute cold fury in his eyes made her breath catch. "No, because I don't submit. I burn everything to the ground and walk away." Something in his tone made her realize he wasn't speaking metaphorically. "You're going to kill them." "I'm going to erase them so thoroughly that no one will even remember they existed." He said it like he was discussing the weather. "But first, I need you somewhere they can't reach you. Somewhere even I couldn't penetrate if I was trying to extract a target." The safe house turned out to be a converted bunker built into a hillside an hour outside Seoul. It looked like a modest cabin from the outside, but Jiwon's biometric scan revealed a reinforced steel door that led to a fully equipped underground facility with multiple rooms, surveillance systems, and what looked like enough weapons to start a small war. "How long have you had this place?" Adetola asked, staring at the arsenal mounted on one wall. 15 years. I've never brought anyone here." He was moving through the space with practiced efficiency, checking systems, activating security protocols. "You'll be safe here. The walls are 3 feet of reinforced concrete. The door is blast-proof. There's 6 months of supplies, water filtration, independent power generation. Even if they somehow found this location, they couldn't get in without heavy explosives, and the security system would alert me long before they got that far." "You're leaving." It wasn't a question. She could see it in the way he was moving, the way he kept glancing at his watch, the tension in his shoulders. "I have to. The people behind this won't stop until I make them stop, and I can't do that from here." He turned to face her, and the conflict in his expression was painful to watch. "I need you to stay here. Don't open the door for anyone. Don't answer any communications except from my personal number. If something happens to me, there's a package in the safe with instructions and enough money to disappear. You'll be. Don't. Adetola crossed the space between them, grabbed his shirt. Don't you dare talk like you're going to die. I'm not planning to die, I'm planning to win, but I need to know you're safe while I do it. His hands came up to frame her face again, and the tenderness in the gesture nearly broke her. This is my fault. I brought you into my world, made you a target. I should have kept you at arm's length, should have maintained the distance, should have. She kissed him to shut him up, poured everything she couldn't say into it, the fear, the anger, the desperate need for him to come back alive. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she held his gaze. I chose to follow you into that interrogation room. I chose to demand the truth. I chose to stay when you gave me the option to leave. Don't take that choice away from me now by pretending this is all your fault. Something shifted in his expression. You're angry. I'm terrified and angry and, she stopped, throat tight. I just found you. I just decided you were worth the risk. And now you're leaving to fight people who want to kill you, and I'm supposed to just sit here and wait. Yes, he said it firmly, no room for argument. Because if they get to you, they have leverage over me. And if they have leverage, I can't protect you or eliminate the threat. I need you here safe, so I can do what I do best without worrying that every choice I make might get you killed. What you do best is violence. Yes. The simple honesty of it hung between them. No apology, no justification, just acknowledgement. How long? 48 hours, maybe less if I'm lucky, maybe more if this goes sideways. He pulled back, started checking his weapons with methodical efficiency. There's food in the storage room, books, entertainment system, everything you need. Just, he stopped, not looking at her, just be here when I get back. Where else would I go? Anywhere. You could use the resources in that safe, disappear, start over somewhere I'd never find you. He slid his gun into the holster, checked the backup piece strapped to his ankle. This would be your chance, to get out, to be free of all of this. Adetola watched him gear up, this dangerous, beautiful man who'd saved her and married her and shown her the darkest parts of himself because she demanded to see. And she realized he was giving her a choice, a real one. Trust him to come back, or run while she had the chance. I'll be here, she said quietly. Jiwon went very still. Then he crossed to her in 3 long strides and kissed her so hard she tasted blood, hers or his, she couldn't tell. When he pulled back, his eyes were blazing. Then I'll come back, no matter what it takes, no matter who I have to kill or what lines I have to cross, I'll come back to you. He left 30 seconds later, and Adetola was alone in a bunker with nothing but fear and hope for company. The first 24 hours were torture. She tried to sleep and couldn't, tried to read and absorbed nothing. The surveillance monitors showed only empty hillside and forest, no movement except occasional wildlife. Jiwon's phone number sat in her contacts like a lifeline she wasn't allowed to use. He'd been clear that contact would compromise his operational security, that she should only call if the safe house was breached. At hour 36, her phone buzzed. Text from Jiwon's number, status update. 2 targets eliminated, 3 more located, you okay? She typed back, scared, safe, come home. His response took 5 minutes, soon. Stay away from the windows. Someone tried to track your phone. I've rerouted everything, but be careful. Her blood went cold. They were trying to find her, even now, even here. At hour 42, the power went out. Adetola's heart stopped. She stood in pitch darkness, hand instinctively reaching for the wall to orient herself. Emergency lighting should have kicked in. Jiwon had shown her the backup systems, but nothing happened. Then she heard it, faint, almost imperceptible, the sound of machinery. Someone was drilling through the bunker door. She didn't think, just moved. Grabbed her phone, ran to the weapons locker Jiwon had shown her, punched in the code with shaking fingers. The lock disengaged. Inside was an array of firearms she'd never touched in her life and one item she recognized, a panic button with instructions in both Korean and English. Press and hold for 5 seconds. Jiwon will come. She pressed it, held it, counted. The drilling sound got louder. 5 seconds. The button beeped. Somewhere in Seoul, an alert was going off telling Jiwon his safe house was compromised and his wife was in danger. Adetola grabbed the smallest gun she could find, a pistol that still felt too heavy in her hands, and moved to the back room. Jiwon had told her there was a secondary exit, a tunnel that led half a mile into the forest. She'd never had to use it, never wanted to. Now she had no choice. The drilling stopped. In the silence she heard voices, Korean, male, at least 3 distinct speakers. They were inside. She ran. The tunnel was narrow, dark, and went on forever. Adetola stumbled through it with one hand on the wall and the other clutching the gun, phone flashlight barely cutting through the darkness. Behind her, she heard shouts. They'd discovered the tunnel entrance. They were following. She ran faster. The tunnel ended at a hidden hatch disguised as a boulder. It took precious seconds to figure out the mechanism, seconds she didn't have. Behind her, flashlight beams cut through the darkness, voices getting closer. She could hear them arguing in Korean, one voice sharp and commanding. The hatch opened. She pulled herself out into cold night air and forest darkness, turned to close the hatch. And a hand grabbed her ankle. She screamed, kicked, tried to pull away. The hand tightened, dragging her back toward the tunnel opening. She saw a face in the darkness, Korean male, 30s, professionally neutral expression. "Don't fight," he said in English. "We're not going to hurt you, we just want to talk." She shot him. Or tried to. The gun kicked so hard it flew from her grip, the bullet going wide and splintering a tree. But the man let go in surprise and she scrambled away, running blind into the forest with no idea where she was going. She'd made it maybe 50 yards when she heard the helicopters. 2 of them, coming in low and fast, searchlights cutting through the trees. For a terrifying moment she thought they were with the men from the bunker, but then she heard the gunfire and realized these were different. These were Jiwon's people. She hit the ground as bullets tore through the air above her, pressed herself flat in the dirt and leaf litter, and prayed she wouldn't die in a forest outside Seoul, because she'd fallen in love with a killer who'd made her a target. The firefight lasted maybe 90 seconds but felt like hours. When silence finally fell, someone approached her position, heavy boots, deliberate steps. She tensed, ready to run or fight or... "Mrs. Kang." The voice was unfamiliar but spoke English with a Korean accent. Adetola looked up to see a man in tactical gear, weapon lowered, face obscured by night vision goggles. "Jiwon sent us. Are you injured?" She shook her head, not trusting her voice. "Good, come with me, he's waiting." They took her to the helicopter, strapped her in and lifted off before she could process what was happening. Through the window she could see the forest below, scattered bodies, the boulder hiding the tunnel entrance. Her bunker, her sanctuary, compromised. The flight took 12 minutes. They landed on top of a building in Seoul. She didn't recognize the area, and that's when she saw him. Jiwon stood near the rooftop access door, covered in blood that definitely wasn't his, gun still in hand, surrounded by 4 men in similar tactical gear. His eyes locked on her the moment she stepped out of the helicopter, and the relief that crossed his face was so raw it hurt to witness. He crossed the distance in seconds, hands running over her like he was checking for injuries, eyes wild and desperate despite the cold control he was trying to maintain. "You're okay, tell me you're okay." "I'm okay," her voice shook. "They found me. I don't know how, but they found me and they got through the door and I ran." "I know, I saw the security footage remotely. I was 30 minutes away when you hit the panic button." His hands framed her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I should have anticipated they'd find the location. Should have moved you somewhere else. Should have. Did you kill them? She didn't know why she asked. Didn't know if she wanted the answer. The three in the bunker are dead. The one who grabbed you is in custody. His expression went arctic. He's going to tell me everything he knows, and then he's going to tell me who hired him, and then he's going to pray I kill him quickly. She should have been horrified, should have been disgusted by the casual way he talked about torture and murder. Instead, she felt relief. Because these men had hunted her, cornered her, tried to take her, and Jiwon had stopped them. Is it over? Not yet, but soon. He pulled back, nodded to one of his men. Take her to the secondary location. Full security detail. No one in or out without my authorization. No, Adetola grabbed his arm. I'm not leaving you again. You don't have a choice. I do. You told me I always have a choice with you. So here's my choice. I stay with you. We finish this together. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. If you stay with me, you'll see things you can't unsee. I'm about to do very bad things to very bad people, and I won't be gentle about it. I don't need you to be gentle. I need you to end this so we can go home. The smile that crossed his face was terrifying and beautiful and utterly without mercy. Then you're going to see exactly what kind of monster you married. The interrogation facility was somewhere in Gangnam, hidden behind the facade of a legitimate business. Jiwon led her through security checkpoints and down into a basement level that felt more like a military installation than anything civilian. They passed rooms with reinforced doors, heard sounds she didn't want to identify, until they reached the end of the hallway where two guards stood watch. Inside was the man from the tunnel. He was zip-tied to a chair, face already showing signs of beating, eyes tracking Jiwon with barely concealed fear. When he saw Adetola, something like recognition crossed his expression. You brought her? He asked in Korean. Jiwon responded in the same language, voice flat and cold. Then he switched to English for Adetola's benefit. I want her to see what happens to people who hunt my wife. I want her to understand that there is no safe distance, no amount of money, no organization powerful enough to protect someone who threatens what's mine. He pulled out a knife. What followed was surgical, precise, and absolutely terrifying. Jiwon didn't lose control or give in to anger. He simply dismantled the man methodically, using pain like a scalpel to extract information. Names, locations, account numbers, the organization behind the bounty, their resources, their weaknesses. Within 30 minutes, he had everything. Who ordered the hit on my wife? Jiwon asked, voice still perfectly calm despite the blood on his hands. The man sobbed. Park Min-ho, the prosecutor you blackmailed 3 years ago. He's assembling evidence to bring you down. Thought if he had your wife, you'd destroy all the files. Where is he now? Safe house, Gangnam, Building 12, Floor 37. Jiwon nodded slowly, looked at one of the guards. Medical attention, then hold him until I decide whether he lives or dies. Then he turned to Adetola, and the shift in his expression from cold professional to something raw and desperate nearly broke her. Last chance. You can walk away right now. I'll make sure you're protected, set up safe. But if you stay, if you see me finish this, you're choosing all of it. The violence, the darkness, the man who just made someone scream for information. You'll be choosing me knowing exactly what I am. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 months ago, terrified, running, controlled by everyone except herself. And she thought about the woman she was now, standing in an interrogation facility watching the man she loved extract vengeance for an attack on her life. I choose you, she said, all of it, even the parts that scare me. The sound he made was halfway between a groan and a prayer. Then he was kissing her, hard and desperate, tasting like violence and need. When they broke apart, his eyes were blazing. Then let's finish this. Park Min-ho's safe house was everything Jiwon expected. High security, discreet location, multiple exits. It wouldn't be enough. They hit it at 4 a.m. with a 6-person team. Adetola watched from the surveillance van as Jiwon moved through the building with lethal efficiency, neutralizing guards and bypassing security like he'd designed the system himself. He probably had. The man was terrifyingly competent when he wanted to be. Park Min-ho was in the penthouse, surrounded by bodyguards and evidence. Files, photos, recordings, everything he needed to destroy Jiwon's operation and put him in prison for the rest of his life. It took Jiwon 9 minutes to dismantle all of it. The bodyguards were professionals, but they'd never faced someone like Jiwon, someone who'd spent 2 decades perfecting the art of violence and had absolutely nothing to lose except the woman watching from 3 blocks away. By the time he reached Park's office, the prosecutor was alone, trapped, staring at the man he'd tried to destroy. Adetola heard everything through the comms. "You should have stayed retired," Jiwon said, voice eerily calm. "Should have taken your blackmail settlement and disappeared. Should have known that threatening me was survivable, but threatening her was suicide. You can't kill a prosecutor. The entire legal system will come after you. No one's going to find your body. No one's going to know what happened. You'll just be another missing person in a city full of them. And all this evidence," sound of papers rustling, "it's going in the incinerator, along with every backup, every copy, every piece of leverage you thought you had. You're insane." "I'm in love, it's worse." A gunshot, clean, professional. Then Jiwon's voice in her earpiece. "It's done, come home." They burned Park's evidence in an industrial incinerator on the outskirts of Seoul while the sun came up. Adetola stood next to Jiwon, watching years of investigative work turn to ash, and she should have felt guilty or horrified or something other than bone-deep relief. "That prosecutor had families," she said quietly. "People who'll miss him, wonder what happened." "Yes," Jiwon didn't sugarcoat it, "and I'd do it again. I'd kill 1,000 prosecutors, destroy 1,000 investigations, burn the entire city to the ground if it meant keeping you safe." He looked at her, eyes shadowed but clear. "Does that make me a monster?" "Yes." "Does it matter?" She thought about it, really thought about it, about the life she'd fled and the life she'd chosen, about fear and safety and the complicated space between them. "No," she said finally, "it doesn't matter because you're my monster." Something shifted in his expression, relief, possession, desperate gratitude all mixed together. "Say it again." "You're mine." He kissed her then, thorough and claiming, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pulled her flush against him. Behind them, evidence burned and the sun rose over Seoul, and Adetola realized she'd never be free of him now. Didn't want to be. When they finally made it back to the Hanamdong apartment, they were both exhausted, covered in soot and sweat and the residue of violence. Jiwon headed straight for the shower, and Adetola followed without being asked. They stripped in silence, stepped under the water together, and for a long moment just stood there letting the heat wash away the night. Then Jiwon's hands were on her again, sliding over wet skin, pulling her against him with a desperation that stole her breath. The kiss was consuming, all-encompassing, and when his hands gripped her thighs and lifted her against the tile wall, she wrapped her legs around his waist and surrendered to it. To him. To the terrifying, beautiful reality of loving a man who would burn the world for her. They didn't make it to the bed, didn't make it past the bathroom floor. They came together with desperate intensity, all the fear and adrenaline and need finding outlet in each other's bodies. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tender. It was claiming and being claimed, possession and surrender, two broken people finding something whole in the spaces between. After lying on the bathroom floor wrapped in towels and each other, Jiwon traced patterns on her hip with one scarred finger. "I need to tell you something." She tensed. "What?" "My mother's will. The one that required me to be married within 6 months or lose everything. He paused. I lied about the timeline. The deadline isn't for another 3 years. Adetola went very still. What? I saw your file, saw what you were running from, saw that you needed a way out and I needed. He stopped, throat working. I needed to not be alone anymore. So I manufactured urgency. Made you think we had no choice but to marry quickly, when the truth is I just wanted an excuse to keep you before I lost my nerve. She should have been angry, should have felt manipulated. Instead, she started laughing, slightly hysterical, slightly delirious, completely genuine. You're telling me you lied to trap me in a marriage because you were lonely. Yes. You're insane. Yes. I love you anyway. The words hung in the air between them. She hadn't meant to say them. Hadn't planned to make that confession while lying on a bathroom floor covered in bruises and exhaustion. But they were true, and there was no taking them back. Jiwon went absolutely still. Say it again. I love you. I love that you're terrifying and dangerous and completely unhinged when it comes to protecting me. I love that you make me tea at 4 a.m. and teach me Korean and give me resources to leave you because you want me to choose to stay. I love. He kissed her, deep and thorough and desperate. When they broke apart, his eyes were suspiciously bright. I've never been loved before, he said quietly. Not really. Not by someone who sees all of me and chooses it anyway. I don't know how to do this. How to be someone's husband instead of just their contract. Good thing we have the rest of our lives to figure it out. The rest of our lives. You're sure? Because I meant what I said. I won't let you go. I'll chase you to the ends of the earth if you run. I'll eliminate any threat, destroy any obstacle, cross any line to keep you. I'll be obsessive and possessive and probably unhealthy about it. I know. And you're choosing this anyway. I'm choosing you anyway. The smile that crossed his face was beautiful and terrible and utterly devoted. Then you're mine, legally, emotionally, permanently. No divorce, no escape clause, no 2-year exit strategy. Good thing I wasn't planning to use it. They made it to the bed eventually, made love again, slower this time, thorough and claiming. Jiwon mapped her body with his hands and mouth like he was memorizing every inch, and Adetola learned that a killer's hands could be gentle when they wanted to be, could worship instead of destroy, could hold instead of hurt. Later, wrapped in silk sheets with soles spread out below them and sunlight painting the room gold, Jiwon pulled her against his chest and pressed a kiss to her temple. I'm still going to be dangerous, he warned. Still going to do terrible things to terrible people. Still going to operate in spaces most people don't know exist. I know. And you're still going to be a target sometimes. Still going to have to live with security and protocols, and the knowledge that loving me comes with risks. I know that too. Does it scare you? She thought about it, about the men who'd hunted her and the violence that had followed, about the life she'd chosen and the man she'd chosen it with. Yes, she said honestly, but I'm not running. Good, his arms tightened around her, because I wouldn't let you get far. 3 months later, Adetola stood in the kitchen of their Hanamdong apartment making tea while Jiwon worked in his office upstairs. She'd started teaching English online, building a career that was hers alone. She'd made friends in Seoul's expat community, built a life that existed separate from him even as she came home to him every night. The contract marriage had become real. The 2-year timeline had become forever. The stranger she'd married to survive had become the man she couldn't imagine living without. Her phone buzzed. Text from Jiwon, come upstairs, want to show you something. She climbed the stairs to his office, the one room that had been off limits for months. He'd opened it to her 2 weeks ago, showed her the files and screens and evidence of what he did, trusted her with his darkness. Inside, he was standing at his desk with his back to her, shoulders tense. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing's wrong, something's. Different, he turned and she saw the vulnerability in his eyes. I got an offer, legitimate work, corporate security consulting for a multinational firm, legal, above board. No interrogations, no blackmail, no operating in the dark. Her breath caught. You're considering it. I'm considering whether I want to keep doing what I do or whether I want to build something different. Something that doesn't put you at risk every time I take a job. He crossed to her, hands gentle on her shoulders. I'm considering whether the man who fell in love with you can coexist with the fixer who spent 20 years being a monster. You don't have to change for me. I know, but I want to for us, for the life we're building, for, he stopped, jaw working, for the family we might have someday if you want that. The future he was painting, legitimate work, safety, normalcy, children. It was everything she'd never let herself dream of. Everything that had seemed impossible when she was running from Chitty and forced marriage and a life that wasn't hers. I want that, she whispered, all of it with you. The kiss was soft, sweet, nothing like the desperate claiming of those first few weeks. This was promise. This was future. This was two broken people choosing to build something whole. There's one condition, Jiwon said against her mouth. What? I keep the bunker, and the guns, and the skills, because the world is still dangerous and you're still mine to protect. She smiled against his lips. Deal. 6 months after that, Jiwon officially retired from the fixing business, took the consulting job, started teaching corporate security seminars and living a life that existed in daylight instead of shadows. The bunker stayed, along with his skills and the cold competence that made him terrifying when he needed to be. But mostly, he was just her husband, the man who made her tea in the morning and taught her Korean curse words and held her through nightmares about the men who'd hunted her. The man who'd crossed every line to keep her safe and then chose to step back into the light because she made him want to be more than the monster he'd been. Adetola never went back to Ethiopia, never spoke to her family again. She built a new life in Seoul with a man who'd started as a stranger and become her everything. And when people asked how they met, she'd smile and say it was a marriage of convenience that became inconveniently real. The truth was more complicated, more violent, more beautiful. The truth was she'd married a killer to survive and fallen in love with the man beneath the monster. The truth was he'd lied to trap her and then set her free because real love required choice. The truth was they'd built something real out of something fake, something permanent out of something temporary, something beautiful out of something dark. And if that made them both a little bit broken and a little bit wrong, well, they were broken and wrong together. Which was more than most people ever got.